Welcome back to the Grip and Chronic Show. Glad to be here for today's dojo. Two of the OGs here, kicking it, as the youngins would say. But here for our daily sales dojo, just going over kind of what we've been through for this morning, any topics that come up. I've already got one that I kind of want to talk about. It's not going to take forever, but I wanted to throw it to you first, as a host should here, if you have something on your mind.
I'm interested to hear. I interrupted you yesterday, so I'm interested to hear what you wanted to bring to the table today first.
Okay. So it was kind of funny because I saw a TikTok last night. You know, TikTok is the devil, Bobby. And it wasn't Adrian's thing, but Adrian's got a great one. But it was something that was like things to look for or run away from if you see it in a job description. Mm-hmm. Or if you see it in like a company's website. And I was like, I'll watch stuff. I'm like, interesting. I want to see what it is, just because it kind of like applies to what we do here too. And it said, "We are family." And I go, I would have that reaction. Yeah. That same reaction where if the company is like, "We're a big family." And it also kind of goes back into like, the worst, the use of the word culture. Mm-hmm. Just we're one big family. We love each other. It's like, I've already got two of those. I'm good. Right. I don't need a third one. I don't need a third Thanksgiving or a third Christmas. Yeah. Whatever it is. But I thought that was interesting. So that's just what I wanted to run by you. So
I mean, being in charge of recruiting, it's hard to talk to potential candidates who are wanting to come into our place and make some money. And part of our discussion is, well, what is our culture like? Like, what is our culture? What is Medicare Guru's culture? They'll ask. And I'll say, well, honestly, we're just here to make money. And the culture is, we're here to help you make money. Mm-hmm. We're not going to be planning birthday parties. There's no party planning committee here.
I feel like we would be in charge though if there was.
Reluctantly in charge. Yes, it is your birthday when bold letters.
Brown balloons.
That's
everywhere.
It. Yeah, just nothing but that. Yeah. And then us bickering over each other. Well, anyways, the point is that like a lot of companies, bigger companies, are like, we have a great culture. We care about each other. And we do too here, but sales begets culture. Mm-hmm. The reason that people like you, Jacob, believe it or not, is because you're a successful salesperson and they want to emulate your sales success. Mm-hmm. And that is what culture is about. We talk about the different types of agents. Do you like the agent that is walking around? And we've talked about this agent before. I'm not going to say any names, but she walked around and was friendly to everybody. She had a heart of gold. Wonderful woman, experienced agent. But the majority of the time, she spent talking to me and spent talking time to you and spent all this time talking to the agents and not really doing anything when she was on the phone. And so she's a wonderful cultural addition, but really didn't bring anything to Medicare Gurus. And, she just decided she didn't want to be here anymore because she just wasn't making any sales. And we both looked at each other like,
that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. Why
you had more talk time on the floor than you did on the phone.
Right.
You don't get paid for talk time on the floor.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I can see. I can see too. You can tell after a while who is going to fit in long-term and who is not going to fit in long-term. And you really can, just because you have to set that mindset and that expectation. Like all of us here, do we love working with each other? Yeah, it's fun. Do we argue sometimes? Yeah, it's fun. But at the end of the day, what you care about and what I care about are two different things. Mm-hmm. You care about hiring. I care about selling. You get Brad Jenkins in here, he will probably tell you, I wish I didn't have to talk to any of you.
Right.
I just want to sell.
Right.
You get Frank in here, who's coming in right now. That he's a little different story. He likes to mingle in and out. Now. Right. But it's that culmination of everything to where it's not always let's hold hands, let's kumbaya. Yeah. Let's hear that. It's we are a group. We're talking about just a quick thing on culture.
Culture versus the dimensions of culture. and how it works in a workplace.
And how it's kind of different here because, like I was saying, we're more about, look, you're an adult and your job is to make sales. If you are not doing something to proactively make a sale, you are responsible for that action. You're responsible for what is going on. There's nobody else to blame. If something bad happens, if something doesn't go your way. But we all understand that.
Yeah.
That's why it works. Nobody here, there's no victim. Because again, you are responsible for everything you do at this company. There's not, well, I'm going to blame this person. Well, I'm going to blame that person. There's no ties. It's you and client. That's what I like about here is that there's no kumbaya, we are family. It's agents that are trying to help and bring up and teach other agents how to sell.
Yeah, and to compound on that, one of the best things we have here, more than any other company I've been with, and I've been with a few over the course of a couple of years, is we foster learning. We want to make sure that you are going to be the best agent. We do have an accountability for them, but when you ask for help, you are going to get more than just help. You're going to get, history, you're going to get experience, and you're going to get advice through all of these wanting to learn possibilities. But in the end, are you going to apply that, or are you just going to continue to do what you do to create this mediocrity? But that's what I really like, is that we have really spent a lot of time helping our agents succeed. And we have also spent a lot of time letting go of their hand and making sure that everything that we've told you, you apply. We've been more stringent with that, which I like.
I think it's kind of funny too, because we were talking about recruiting, me and Grips today. There's a meme that was going around. It's on Twitter and it's on some like sports podcast too and things like that. But I'd sent to him and Mason. I go, look, I have a new trait that I want to look for in recruiting, and it's called something like that boy got that dog in him. I want somebody who's got a little dog in him, who wants to really succeed and be there and want to succeed instead of being complacent.
Well, yes, and that's a person thing. But when you talk about culture, right, and even people that are tenacious like that, right, the old adage is we got to build a good culture. We got to build a good culture. Yeah, I get it. We got to build a good culture, but what function? And really, I see a lot of areas out there. I see a lot of people out there. They want good culture, but what they really don't have is a mission, right? Your mission should inform your culture. Because without a mission, without a goal, without actual set things that you need to accomplish, right? We are here to build successful agents. Stop. So what does our culture need to facilitate to help build successful agents? Too often I've seen so many people going, I want a good culture. I want a fun workplace. I want this. To what end? What is it doing?
You're looking for things that are not involved with your job duties, which is just asinine to me.
But think about this. Even your job duties are informed by what your mission is, right? Do you need to be doing job duties that are outside of what your goal is? Your goal is to build successful agents. That means you provide them leads, you provide them training, you provide them a good work environment, right? You eliminate as many distractions as you can. You provide freedom of lateral movement within boundaries, right? You have areas of operations. You have all these other things that you have to do, and it's there to help provide focus on accomplishing that mission. They have a different mission. Their mission is to get on that phone, make a sale, but it's a subset of what we need to do. Then the culture needs to reflect that. If you sit around and you have other people that don't understand that dynamic or what y'all's mission is, they will encroach on it, and they will actually go ahead because they might have a different mission and it might get in the way of yours. I mean, we've seen it. Everyone's seen it. The minute you ask, why am I having to do this? You really need to ask that. How is this accomplishing the mission that I have? Right? Is it outside the scope of my parameters of what you need to do? Is it a distraction? Is it something that's not feeding anything in there? Is it not actually contributing to what I need to accomplish? And that's the problem, is that a lot of folks out there, they look at culture like it is the mission, and it's not. It is absolutely not. It's just, if your job at a company is to make people feel good about working at that company, you need to go find something really, you need to go talk to someone about what the actual mission is of a department and see how you can help facilitate that. Because that's,
I mean, you see it more and more nowadays. Like, I'm sure you've seen it too with all the recruiting stuff. It's like, what, chief people officer, culture,
chief happy officer.
I'm just, I guess it's a new age thing. And again, too, I'm 15 years younger than you guys. I think so.
Yeah.
I'm about right there. Which blows my mind because you look a whole lot younger than he does, but I'm closer to him in age. Blows my mind. You got some.
He's had a lot more.
He got some tread left.
He's had some darker experiences in life.
But that made him who he is.
well, think about this, right? And this is something we have to be cognizant of leading a sales floor, but also salespeople in general need to be cognizant of. I talk to people all the time. Oh, I want to provide for my family. I want to do that. That's great. Everyone has those universal goals. You know, everyone wants to win an election. Everyone wants to win a war. Everyone wants to win the space race. All of these things, yeah, they're great overreaching goals. But you have certain missions that fit into that. How are you going to facilitate that overriding goal? If you're an agent, you need to be selling policies, right? You have to be selling policies to accomplish all those other things. Because if you don't do that, that's a blocker on everything else after that you ultimately want to accomplish. So look at that and go, well, what do I need to do? Well, I need leads. I need a workspace. I need to be able to contact people. I need to be able to write apps. I need to be able to quote them. I need to be able to do all that stuff. I need to be able to maintain my relationships. Running putt-putt in the sales floor isn't necessarily going to contribute to all that. Manual fun days don't contribute to that, right? Now, as far as burnout and breaking up monotony, those can be components of it, but they can't be the reason that you exist in an organization. It's just absolutely insane to me to think that there's people out there who end up making it their job, right, to entertain people. And then because that is their job and their purpose, everything else is secondary to them, including the mission these other people have to accomplish. And it just ends up taking over. I just don't understand. It's the same thing I have with meetings. I hate meetings. I know they're necessary. I get it. I don't like it because eventually what ends up happening, if you're not careful, you lose the purpose of the meeting. They get scope creep, they expand, they get worse. So instead of actually, and this happens in sales, what's the purpose of a presentation to a client? Well, it's to eventually make a sale, right? So we end up going through all these things where the meetings themselves start going into this whole rigmarole where now the purpose of having a meeting is not to accomplish anything or settle anything or convey information. It's actually to just have the meeting. And you can't get into that. Same thing with your activities as an agent, as a salesperson. Well, I've seen too many agents sit around at their desk looking at a lead and looking at stuff instead of actually getting on the phone. Well, I'm doing research. Well, your purpose and your mission isn't to do research. That is a tool you should have to actually accomplish your mission. Why don't you get on the phone?
I had that exact scenario happen today where somebody was like, hey, can you look at this with me? I have to call them back here. I talk to Mish, I have to call them back. And I go, what's there to look at? And they go, well, I want to see like what we can do in this situation because they're just on Medicare and then they're a little bit older, so it's going to be more expensive. And I go, do you have them on the phone? They go, no, I haven't called him yet. I go, why are you doing this?
Right. Creative call avoidance.
It's what it is. Well, it's also you're trying to find your angle before you talk about it. And like this person brought up, it is going to be a higher premium for a lot of stuff because they are older. I go, look, you don't know their budget. You have no idea how much value you can instill in somebody, and it doesn't matter the price tag. It doesn't. If there was a dog collar that was $10,000 that would guarantee an ACL would not be broke in my backyard, I'd have 2 of those because I know the value in it. Sure, people go, why would you spend $10,000 on a dog collar?
Because you spent $15,000 on getting ACL fixed.
Exactly, because it's a whole lot cheaper than spending, and it's bound to happen and keep happening too. It's just a backyard of death for knees. It's not my fault though. I'm not the yard guy.
Hey. I'm not accusing anybody.
But it's exactly what you're talking about. It's creative call avoidance.
All right.
And so we're kind of mixing a little bit. Welcome in Victoria, everybody. Victoria.
So when you deal with this, and as you're advancing in your career, and you have agents coming to you, I mean, let's take a look at how. And every agent should ask themselves of this. You should actually ask yourself: is what I'm doing right now actually going to help me make the sale? And it can't be like this really long space between these dots I have to connect. Well, what if? If you say what if one time in your thought process, you stop what you're doing, right? Get on the phone and talk to the client. Because now you have questions that you need answered.
Mm-hmm.
So get on the phone and talk to the client.
Especially too, if you've only talked to them one time and it was yesterday and that phone call was 30 minutes worth, what's really the chance that they're going to pick up?
So when we talk to agents, because every agent goes through this at one point in their career, what do you find is a good way to, because you can't just say, you can't do that, blah, blah, blah. They're not going to listen to you, right? You can't preach to people. They're not going to respond just like a client would. You can't browbeat a client into buying something, and if you do, it's not going to stick. So how would you propose when you see that, and you're talking to an agent, when you see it, how would you propose bringing that up and walking them down through that logic tree of, is this really effective?
I mean, that's exactly what I told the person. I go, just going over everything, and she didn't know medical conditions. We didn't know anything about this client. You just had a 30-minute conversation. You just had to break it down. It's like, I know you want to be prepared on this call. You do. But you're putting the cart before you even go look at a horse to buy, is what's happening here. You're trying to facilitate something that you might not even know what's going on. Where if you're thinking supplement, she could be on Medicaid. She could, XYZ. She could have every condition known to man. She could be perfectly healthy. She could be a millionaire. We can keep going on and on. But at the end of the day, you don't know until she picks the phone up. Until that client picks the phone up, everything that you're doing here, it's all prep work for something that's not even going to be applicable.
Right.
That you're basically, not call avoidance, not what I said, but it's more of you're trying to focus your efforts on the end portion, but you haven't even started the beginning.
Sounds like we're talking about agent overthinking as opposed to.
Yeah, we're kind of talking, we're a little like philosophical today. We talked a little bit about like culture, and now we're talking about like agent kind of stuff like that.
Let's go. I mean, I would suppose that if you wanted to talk to someone about that, I would actually walk them through just like you would with a client and go, okay, so tell me why you're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm doing it because I want to be sure. I want to be ready. Okay. So are you going to be able to prepare for every contingency? No, but I want to be as ready as I can. Okay. So what happens to all this time that you're spending right now if they aren't concerned with what you're researching? Well, then I guess I've wasted time.
There it is.
There's your answer. Right?
Frank hates wasting time.
I hate wasting time. I absolutely hate it.
I think your personal hell, if you do go there, is you're going to just be sitting in a waiting room. It's just going to be like this empty room, and you have nowhere to go, just sitting there waiting, and you're going to go absolutely insane.
You're going to have a laptop, but you can't have Excel.
No.
Oh, God. That's it.
Think about this. Yeah. If I don't have anything else that I need to accomplish, then I'll be in heaven. But I got shit I got to do.
I need that made into a shirt. That statement right there. It's a lovely statement.
Adrian, can you clip that?
Yeah.
What's that thing that people do? They go like,
yeah.
They clap their hands.
Right? No, I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
I love doing nothing. I love being able to spend my time exactly.
But that's what you're saying. Doing nothing has to be part of your schedule.
I have no.
It can be done once everything is done.
Once everything is done.
Okay.
That's your end goal.
Yes.
Okay.
I have this same argument every Saturday and Sunday morning at 7:30. I go, what do we have to do?
Right.
Mm-hmm. So
and you set it down so that when it comes 1:00, I can go play Madden.
Right.
Or I can go do whatever I want. She
Right.
can take a nap with the dogs. I can go fishing, whatever it is. But
Right.
we need something to accomplish
Right.
in order to have that reward.
No, I'm with you. That's
Yeah.
exactly how I look at my free time.
Mhm.
When I think free time, I think first I was okay, what do I have to do to get to this free time?
Mhm.
You know, that's
I did it last night because football season's coming up.
Yeah.
So Saturdays, it's going to be college football. Not much of an NFL guy, so I get a lot of stuff done on Sunday instead of
Right.
Saturday.
Right.
But now we're getting into postseason baseball here pretty soon.
Correct.
So things are ramping up. So that's why I did last night when I got home, and then she got home from an errand that she had to run. It's like 5:30. I already had dinner in the oven. We ate, and it's 6:15 because we're old and Luby's wasn't open.
Mm-hmm.
But it's 6:15. I go, okay, what else do we have to do? She goes, what? I go, what else do we have to? What else do we need to accomplish before we can just relax?
right. Because if you don't get those things done, when it's time to relax, you can't.
Exactly.
You can't.
Well, Frank Todd used to say, and I'm paraphrasing it because it's been a long time since I talked to him, but he used to say, you know what? I'm pretty good at sales, but I'm also pretty lazy. My goal is to actually not have to do anything, just relax. But to get to that goal, I need to sell 2 a day. So you know what he started doing? He started selling about 2 before noon.
Yeah.
That's a goal.
Yeah.
The reward is his goal is to do nothing, but he has to make money. He has to do all these things. He has to get in touch with clients. And I'll tell you what wasn't involved in attaining that goal: researching a client's lead for 30 minutes before he called them.
Right.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right. So if you're doing that and you're plotting, I mean, this is especially a problem with outside agents that have to go and do face-to-face sales.
Mhm.
Agents will sit there and they'll map out their route forever.
Yeah.
Well, here's the problem. First person you go to, no shows. Okay. Well, you spent a lot of time making that the actual first person you're going to go to. Now they've no shown, and now you have some appointments coming up. So now you can't go to a different location. So now you just have dead time. What are you going to do? Well, you got to fill it out. Probably call and try to schedule some more appointments or whatever you do. However, if you hadn't spent an hour mapping out your route at the beginning of the day and just went and did what you needed to do or made calls at that time, you would already have more than enough to do, and you would have already made more sales. It's just a matter of productive time. Research, just for research's sake. That's all it is. Because you're dealing with human interaction, right? There's no perfect human interaction right off the bat.
You can't read a book.
And you can't, and you're not Mycroft Holmes. You can't think of every permutation and available scenarios and account for all of them. All right. You can't Kaiser Sose your way into a sale. That's not the way it works. So you just have to get on the phone and start making calls and start talking to people. And by the way, this is another problem that occurs. People think pipeline is useful, and therefore they don't close the deal on the first call like they should. They don't get it done, or the first visit like they should. And then that opens the purview. Oh, I have a future appointment. I might have to get ready for that appointment. So I'm going to spend an hour getting ready for what could be a 5-minute interaction.
Or a voicemail.
Or a voicemail.
I wanted to talk about that exactly. The creative close avoidance. Like when you're on the phone and you're afraid to close the deal, and you pivot to, well, let's schedule another time to call you back. Let's do, and it drives me crazy because a lot of agents are like, oh yeah, regardless of the pipeline, they're like, oh yeah, I'll talk to them in a week, or I'll talk to them in a couple of days, but they never get them on the phone. So what blows my mind is, why are you continuing this pattern that is wildly unsuccessful? Why do people do that?
Because
I got to add one funny thing though. There was somebody at the conference that we went to. That is how they close deals. What they do is they have a scheduled appointment. They call the person, go through a 15-minute script, and then they go, okay, I'm going to call you next Tuesday for the enrollment at 4 p.m. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, buddy, you wasted your money on this stage. Because everybody in here thinks that you have no idea what you're doing. That you have a client on the line and you are going over their needs and you're doing all your discovery. And then you're keeping all the discovery and going, okay, I'm going to call you next week. I'm going to piece together everything I found, and then I'll have a proposal for you.
Was he or she a new agent?
No.
Did you get any booze?
Yeah. Okay.
I was like, gosh.
So
Wow.
Look at this. Here it comes.
Here comes the
I don't understand. Like, there's a lot of bad information out there, and a lot of what people see when they're looking for sales advice is that they're not actually, and they want to watch videos and read books. What they're really looking at is people who, like, if I'm going to do outbound sales, there's a big bridge in between what guys do for prospecting and lead gen, which, by the way, happens to be a lot of marketers, right? And they sell leads, they don't sell policies, right? That is nothing but prospecting and outreach, right? And a lot of them are starting to schedule appointments for people. We've tested some of those leads. No one showed up.
Right.
The appointments weren't, no one was there for that appointment. So people have started honing their ability to do an interaction and to make contact with the person. And they've started saying, my goal is to make an appointment, because that's easier in my mind than making a sale. And maybe they'll just like me more next time, or whatever, or I can be better prepared, or whatever. What they fail to realize is this: contact rate is king. And when I'm engaged with a person, I'm already there.
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't have a goal of anything else other than walking out with a check in hand. If I need to schedule an appointment, then I will. That's my only out. But if I go in there with the mentality of scheduling an appointment, I am going to schedule an appointment and nothing more. And in fact, I've seen people directly when a client was like, yeah, I want to go ahead and get it right now. Mm-hmm. And the agent's like, they just have this pattern interrupt and their brain fritzes out and they don't know what to do now.
Yeah.
Even though they've done 100 applications before. So there has to be a paradigm shift here. They have to go, hey, my goal is to actually make a sale right now. Everything that falls short of that, then I can schedule an appointment. But there's such a bridge here because everyone thinks that's just what you do. Well, I schedule an appointment, right? And then I'll go to their house, right? And then I'll hopefully they'll like me and they'll sign up.
Yeah.
And then even phone reps go, I'll schedule an appointment. I'll call them back for some god-awful reason. And then hopefully they'll like me and they'll sign up. When in fact, if you're following what a human interaction is, you follow a hero's journey,
Yeah.
you can just do it all at once.
Yeah.
Just do it all at once. And this is driven by a lot of things. It's driven by the fact that it's kind of like a sojourn back to where people were having to do face-to-face interactions after calling people, right? But it's also a matter of, and that kind of stuck. And then people kept doing it again and again and again.
Yeah.
But it also came to a matter of people actually they just want to fill up their day.
Yeah.
They want to feel production and have hope.
Is that what?
And I'm going to tell you, it's hope.
Yeah.
All it is a way to manufacture hope for yourself. Give you that little thing, like the same reason.
The little sliver of hope.
Oh, a sliver of hope.
Yeah.
And hope is a bad relationship to have for a lot of things. I mean, you can have hope for overriding things. Hopefully humanity will get better. Hopefully the environment won't collapse. Hopefully the economy won't collapse. Those are all great hopes. It's not why people have shorts and hedging bets.
Right.
Right? That's not why. But at the same time, hope will leave you homeless. Right?
Yeah.
It's just all of it is denying the fact, or not accepting the fact that you can't sell.
Right.
Because if you could have done it on the first call.
No one buys on the first call. Well, I've got thousands of clients that have.
Yeah. The majority of our book of business are one call closes.
The vast majority. I mean,
It's just
every day I hear someone go,
Yeah.
every day that I hear someone go, oh, it's going to be a great day. I have 10 appointments. And I go, okay, let's check back with that guy at the end of the day.
Yep.
Oh, so how many sales you make? I didn't make any. Well, you had 10 appointments though. Yeah, I called them each like 3 or 4 times. Didn't make any sales though.
Get them tomorrow, chum.
Right. It's just ridiculous. And plus there's other factors too. If you don't close it right now, that person can't make a decision later. Their memory isn't capable without repetition of an action or information. You're not going to retain most of it. Within 3 days, you're down to, actually within the next day really, or 2 days, you're down to only 10% retention.
Well, then you've given them space to talk themselves out of it.
Right.
Overthink themselves out of it.
Right. Well, and also, by the way, everyone thinks that clients have to really think about stuff. They don't. The reason they have to think about stuff because you're actually looking at facts and figures and shit that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They don't buy things. They don't buy numbers. Your brain can't even process that on a decision. All right. I mean, if a bull's charging you, you're not going to go sit there and do math in your head. You're not going to run the probabilities of it. No, you're just going to get out of the way.
Right.
It's an emotion. It's a reaction. So if you start talking to that and building connections with people, the sales will come. Then it's only a matter of you not getting in your own way and closing it right now.
Well, to be fair, I remember when I first started out, I would get excited about appointments.
Right.
I remember I could go back and remember, I have 4 appointments today. They all committed to these appointments. And I'm
But
like,
that's what your previous agency wanted.
Right.
They measured success partially on how many appointments you
right.
Right. And that's dumb.
And then I realized that appointments were they're bogus things.
Yes.
That gave you the self-aggrandizement.
Right.
Because what I have a problem with is people who like to have that sliver of hope. Like they like their little dome of happiness. It's like, look at me, I'm happy with all my appointments, and I'm happy not challenging myself.
Well, also there's another function of this. If you're paid a salary and your job is to be busy, then you're happy with appointments.
Right.
I make commission. My job is to make sales, and that's the only thing I get paid on.
Right.
So I'm not happy with appointments. I'm
Right.
happy
There's an
with
appointment
sales.
center that needs you to have appointments to have a job, then you're giving them a job.
Right. But for me, if I'm on the phone with you, I'm going to sell you something.
Yeah.
My time cannot be free. I have to make use of it. I have to get paid for it. Therefore, I have to make a sale.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I'm not going to quit. You're going to have to tell me to go away.
Well, you talked about a strategy. It was you and Brandon. I think it was. I'll just give credit to both of you, but you guys were talking about how in like high-level mergers and acquisitions of major companies, when they plan to merge or they plan to make a deal, they don't talk about what they need. They go over every catastrophe and make sure that if we do this deal, what is the worst thing that can happen? And then what's the next worst thing? And what's the next worst thing? And what's the next worst thing? And then they just kind of do these contingency plans to make sure, this will be taken care of if this happens. And then at the very end, they're like, we've gone over every single catastrophe, and every single catastrophe has been covered. So there's no other option but to do this deal.
Right. But here's the thing. The sale of that company has already been conducted.
You think so?
Yes. Because they're not going to go through all of that effort and go through that level of engagement without wanting to sell or buy. That's the contingencies and all that stuff. This person's made an offer for an organization or for a partnership. This person has tentatively accepted it.
Yeah.
Now their lawyers are going to get involved to make sure. And that's it.
Yeah.
The conditions and terms have already been set on that. Those things are just that's the formality before the ink's signed, but the sale's already been made.
Because one company is not going to give that other level of access unless it's already set.
Right. We are not discussing terms anymore. We are actually looking at conditions, and we're doing our discovery and due diligence. They call it due diligence.
Mm-hmm.
That is what that is, and that is I've already made the decision. We're not looking at your books just to go, oh well, I think it's worth this much. No, we've already put a valuation on what we think it's going to be. Mm-hmm. If something pops up, then we'll adjust the valuation or walk away. But we're not really. No, we've already made tentative offers to buy. You've already accepted those tentative offers if everything remains in that window.
So how do we get clients to get to that mental state of saying, all right, I'm ready to buy, from I'm not ready to buy?
Well, generally, you got to get them to say they're ready to buy.
You have to give them a reason.
Or you have to let them discover their own reason.
Or
Right?
dig and find out what is their hesitation. Get them to tell you and open up to you
Right.
what that is.
Right. If I'm selling anything, right, I'm satiating a need. And the really good ones learn how to make people discover that they had a need.
Mm-hmm.
Not tell them what their need is. Yeah. But no, when that person starts talking about it and you kind of go, oh, wow, that can be a big problem. Yeah. I mean, so what do you think about that? And just dive into that a little bit. Oh, yeah, well, so this. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And then Don't come up and go, well, if that's the case, then this. No, don't do that. Like you were talking about the other day, where you jump in and say, oh, that's what you want, then it's this. Don't do that.
Yeah. I've also been listening to, we've all been listening to each other's calls and sharing our experiences. But one thing that I've noticed that we all do that other agents struggle with is we are very strict on the script. Okay. We respect the script. We do the script very well. But in the middle of doing that script, we are always pausing and listening to the client to see if they're paying attention. Like a lot of the other agents that are struggling, they just go through they're like, I'm doing the script. It's like, but are you paying attention to your audience listening to the script?
Let's also be very honest about it right now. I'll tell you right now, because we've been dealing with Advantage plans and D-SNPs for a while. Now the lead sources come in. We're dealing with Medicare supplement people and a mixture now. And I'm telling you, we are not good on that script right now because everyone keeps on infusing and taking stuff as if they're talking to someone on Medicaid. We're not good at it right now. We need to get back to it. We need to get better at it because that script is meant to account for all those options. But we've been down one parallel for so long. People are just, and it's not their fault. It's just conditioning.
Yeah.
So we need to get out there and we need to start drilling on that. We need to go ahead and get into those practices again because they're going to naturally do that. It's been months that they were talking to these other people and that's going to be the case. So we need to take that interrupt and we need to go ahead and go, enough time for a reset. You're talking to a different person.
Yeah.
Get back to what we know works for all cases. You've shortcutted your way down these little portions and now you pigeonholed yourself and you're not able to deal with these other variables very well anymore.
Yeah. Well, I think, and I'm going to be more cognizant of this as we bring on new agents and working with other agents, is we have to decipher, and this is just terminology that I use, but we have to decipher between fringe questions and selector questions. Fringe questions are questions that which direction are we going to go in terms of our selector questions. Like, for example, are you on Medicaid? Are you on Medicare? When did your A and B start? Those are fringe questions because we can't figure out what they want until what we can give them. And a lot of these agents are asking questions like, are you on Medicaid? Okay, let's, oh, you're not on Medicaid? Well, you're poor, so that's good. Like, that's not a selector question. That's a fringe question. These are questions that will direct where we need to go.
In the script, we call them qualifier questions.
Yeah, or qualifier questions, right. But they are using these qualifier questions into offering plans. And that's why they're not getting them done. They have to go to the selector questions, which are going to have them admit, whether they want to or not, what they want.
The whole point of this, and this is another problem with it too, you put out examples in a script, like selector questions, you have to have variations between them because you don't know what they're going to get, what they're able to get until you go through the qualifying questions. Once I know that they're qualifying questions, then I know what selector questions I should ask.
Right.
However, no one's thinking about the type of things or ways to propose stuff to people. They just look at the example of the selector questions and that's just what you ask, no matter what we put on it. So we need to drill on that. We need to actually work on that. And everyone should drill on that. If I have to do an Advantage plan, because that's the world they live in, and they're not going to get qualified medically for a sub, then I need to have selector questions that go, think about this when we're talking about a sub. Yeah, sorry, I'm talking about Advantage plan. If they're going to qualify for a supplement, and I'm always going to put my best foot forward at that point, and we're going to talk about supplement, then my selector questions need to reflect of how do I get you to say you want the things that only subs can do?
Right.
Right? That's what a selector question is. It's not for you to select what they do. It's not for you to select something for them. What it is it gives them the perception of they are selecting a solution and they don't know what the solution is yet.
But you have it.
Here's my example of this. I did this yesterday with Christine, where her brother, he's actually a Medicare agent outside of North Carolina. And we're working with one where the guy that lives in North Carolina, his brother lives in Dallas, but he's got power of attorney. And right now he has an Advantage plan and a Plan G. And so the guy is talking to the power of attorney. So it's a there's a whole lot of different things going on. And he goes, yeah, we'll just cancel that Cigna. I go, why? He goes, well, he hasn't had any claims and he's paying like $220 a month. I go, all right, is he pretty healthy? He goes, yeah. I go, okay. How old are you? And he goes, I'm 74. And they go, oh, that's cool. She was like, yeah, Christine's brother's my Medicare agent. And I go, oh, that's awesome. What'd he get you? He's like, he got me this Aetna plan. I go, okay, you paying for it? He goes, nope. And I love it. And I go, pretty healthy? He goes, yeah. I go, that's why you love it. He goes, well, I just went and got a CAT scan the other day. it was only $35. And I go, that's terrific for you. That's great for you. And then we went into selector questions for his brother, because at this point you can pick both options and see which one you want to go with. And it's like, okay, he's already in assisted living. It's not nursing facility, no nurses come around. They
Like a
just have-
retirement community.
like a retirement community, pretty much. But he already has power of attorney. So I'm like, okay, you know something's going to happen down the road where you're going to have to take care of him. You know, you're already concerned about it, that something's going to happen because you took that step and you already got power of attorney. And after doing some of those selector questions where it's like, well, you know, the older he gets, the less really likely he gets to qualify. So you can always have an advantage plan. You can always have plan G. And going through some of the things like that, like the difference of, you know, if they get a new doctor that comes in, that goes door to door and checks on people, they don't take his advantage plan. He's got to pay out of pocket. And what I mean, he's got to pay, you have to pay because you're the one fitting all his bills right now. So this is more about you and him, not just him. And about 45 minutes in, he goes, so how do I get one of those plan Gs?
Exactly.
And I go, all
All right, go get your Medicare card.
I
Right.
could, oh man, yeah.
So, but that's the other issue. Most other agents out there, they'll go, well, I can schedule an appointment for you. Why? I mean, people, I actually like the term pipeline. It's just people don't understand what the pipeline's full of. It's full of sewage. It's a sewage pipeline.
When you're talking to these people, you're promising them that you're going to lift the weight off their shoulders and get this off their plate. And if you schedule a call back needlessly, you're not doing what you promised you to do. It's still on their shoulders. They're still stressing about their
Here's the
still not off
secret.
their plate.
They're going to take whatever, because they're still in that mode right then. They're going to take whatever information you have. They're going to call the next guy, and the next guy is going to close it.
Mhm.
Most of these people don't understand when they go to an appointment that doesn't show up, that person already bought.
Yep.
They're not doing this anymore because they've already resolved it. And they probably bought something that wasn't as good as what you had to offer, but that's your fault for not closing it. You actually did a disservice to that client, and they are not in a good spot anymore. And shame on you. And you know what? You don't deserve the sale.
Yeah.
You should have done it. You should have gone into that conversation with the mission of resolving a problem and putting it to bed.
Yeah.
But no,
Fool's gold at that point.
absolutely.
So I want to propose this question here, and it kind of circles back to, this is a philosophy question as well, because, you know, the longer we talk in these, the deeper we get here.
Mhm.
So let's go back to the example we were using, right? Doing all this research before you call somebody for the second time after you've had one 30-minute discussion. You guys might have said it when I was out there. But do you think, is it a fear of failure, or is it a fear of success that people do that? Because I can see it both ways for me, but I want to ask you guys, because you can say, man, I'm so afraid to call this guy because I don't want to do the wrong thing. I don't want to offer him the wrong thing. That's why they're not calling. Or they don't want to just pick up the phone and go because they're afraid that if they're good at it, they haven't been doing that
So
previously.
Let's think about the phrasing of that real quick. So fear of success.
Mhm.
How would you be afraid of success?
Because you're afraid to apply yourself. Again,
Yes,
with
I know exactly what he
creative,
means.
creative avoidance. You are avoiding
Yeah.
being successful.
True, but success is actually just a consequence of actions. So why would you? What?
Okay, so you're getting third tier philosophical
No, you
here.
have
All right.
to get third tier. That's what
Like
you
Joe
think.
Rogan now.
What components of that success that you're talking about?
Mhm.
What are those components? What would that agent have to start doing?
Because to answer your question, the fear of success, meaning that if they have in their mind, once they plan all this, thing out with this client that they're going to talk to, and then they close it, their fear is now they are responsible for this person's future endeavors or future experiences with the plan that they recommended. And that is scary for someone like that.
So fear
Internally, yes.
Fear of being held accountable for having that client now, which means you don't believe in the product you shouldn't be selling in the first place.
Right.
All right. So
I was also going to say fear that, and it's going to seem outlandish, but you're afraid of succeeding because you don't. I'm trying to figure out how to put this here.
Self-sabotaging.
Self-sabotage almost, but you're afraid of succeeding because you know if you can call and do it, why the hell haven't you been doing it?
All right. So fear of the negative feeling of realizing that you have been doing it wrong and you are wrong and you have wasted time, you have wasted money. That's a bad feeling. People get a pit in their stomach on that.
Fear of waste. Yeah,
a fear of all those. All
I
right.
think a lot of that occurs when you're not prepared. It's just like when you and I related as a musician going up on stage, you don't know the song. You're afraid. If you don't know your presentation, if you don't know how to communicate with people and you're afraid to walk into that boardroom or whatever, you're not prepared.
Yeah, but you know what? You can't be prepared with the client.
what we're
the
talking about, Brad, because you weren't in here for it. It is, so we had somebody on the floor that they had an appointment for a callback today with somebody where they talked to him for the first time for 30 minutes yesterday. They didn't really get into any discovery, but just off of zip code and age alone and knowing that they just have Medicare, already going into, well, what plan G is going to be the best rate? Well, what's going to be, without even
Scheduled right off the bat, when everybody was there.
without even having any discovery.
They're not on the phone with the client.
Yeah, they're not on the phone.
They're doing
It's
research
before.
before they're back on the phone with the client.
Yeah, and you don't even know if they have a brother or a sister, if they live with them, what medications they take.
That's like writing up the deal before you have the deal.
Right.
Total chase job.
Total chase job. That's what we're talking about. So when we're talking about the fear of success, let's talk about what success actually entails. You're gonna have to admit you're wrong, and that feels bad. So you're afraid of feeling bad. You're afraid of going, I'm a fool. I'm afraid of having that realization of going, oh my God, I should have been doing this the whole time. All right, so what else?
I think the fear, and this is just philosophical, of being under the eyes of the world now. Now that you have sold this, now people are going to see you as a successful agent, which you might have a personality conflict with that and say, okay, now people who have seen me in this one certain way of just being an appointment setter and being this under the radar person is now going to be someone who can close a deal effectively. And I don't want that.
Fear of expectation.
Yes, correct.
There you go. Now we're starting to talk about some stuff here.
And I think too, something goes back to what you said a little bit, which is fear of being wrong, which is like, there's plenty of times and people who have said, oh, it's the leads suck. Well, no, the whole time it was you, but you don't want to admit that. But now if you finally change your ways and you get a sale, you're like, well, crap, I can't blame it on the leads anymore, so I was wrong, but I don't want to be wrong, so I sabotage myself to prove that I was right. It was the leads that were trash.
All right, so now that we're talking about all these things, that fear of success, the fear of failure is very apparent. I don't want to be rejected, so I just don't want to do it. So if you're afraid of all those things for being successful and you're afraid of failing, those are the two components, fear of failure, fear of all the things that describe success. We got to figure out when we're talking to somebody, we're talking to an agent, what is more fearful for them than those components? Failing your family, being poor, not being able to eat, right? Fear of rejection is one thing, but being an abject, just being a failure. So maybe the communications need to be this. Oh, well, you tried your best. It's okay. It's not your fault. I'm going to tell you right now, I've worked with a great salesperson when I was working over at Dell, or I was a contractor for Dell. This man had a lot of things going on that you would look at and go, no, he's not going to be a good salesperson. He did it. He did well at it. He even had verbal tics, right?
Like Tourette's?
Not diagnosed, but we're pretty sure. Right?
But I'll blame myself on.
Oh, he didn't blame himself for anything. He got stuff done.
Right.
Right? So all of those things, but you know what? He was driven to be successful. He grew up poor. He owned rental homes based off of his income and his commissions. He did all of these things. So his fear of dying poor and alone and all these other things trumped all these other inhibitions and fears that he had about getting on the phone and contacting people. Right? So
Yeah.
what are the fears that we need to talk to about someone? And by the way, I just want to do bets. I want a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I really want to, I want like 300 abs, right? I want the guns. But I tell you what, man, that ain't motivating me to work out.
Yeah.
I tell you what I can't stand, and you just said it. I'm trying my best.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care about your effort.
or do not.
Exactly. Either
That's my Yoda voice.
there is no I'm going to try harder. Well, if you're going to try harder, why haven't you been trying that hard?
Why don't you take a look at what you're afraid of not happening or happening and go, how do I avoid that negative outcome?
Yeah.
Well, you guys are hitting on an important point, fear. Fear is a great motivator, but you have to eliminate fear.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're afraid, you're not going to succeed because that fear is actually a limiting factor in your life.
But how do you eliminate fear? Because it's a prime base emotion. It is the one base.
We have to recognize it.
You
Like
have to recognize it and you have to move forward.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
You also have to motivate yourself by going, what am I more afraid of than this thing?
Well, you have to make fear then your motivation to succeed instead of your motivation to
Right.
not succeed.
Well, I go back to, I have to.
Right?
I have to make this work.
I have to.
And that way fear is out of the, you're going to go through that wall of fire. You're going to make this act because I have to. I have to do it because I have to support my family. You have to have that.
Okay, so you're afraid of your family falling apart and you not being able to support
That's
them.
not my fear.
You have to support your family. Why do you have to support your family, Brad?
Because that's what we have to do.
No, you don't. My dad.
He's going to tell you why you're wrong.
No, you don't. My
You
dad.
know, that's not
So-
one of my fears. I've done that. I put 4 kids through college.
Right.
I'm done with all that.
No, I get it. But my point is this, is that
Well,
people will jump off a cliff to avoid a fire.
Well, let's boil it down to the call. Okay, you're going to go, okay, what are you afraid of on the call? You have to eliminate these fears before you even get on the call, or be prepared to transverse these fears and get through it.
I get that. I agree with you on that. But how am I going to motivate someone to actually take that step?
Here, I'll tell you this. This is something that I've put myself through this and I suffer through this. It's an ism that I've made up and it's called do it tomorrow-ism. I am so amazing at doing things tomorrow, like planning things to do tomorrow. Like I'm planning, like I'm going to have the best workout tomorrow.
Oh my God.
I'm going to put time to make the best meal tomorrow. And that is something that I am guilty of. And I like your attitude toward it. I think I'm gonna start applying that because it's like, if I start turning it from, oh man, it's going to be a great day tomorrow to do this. If I start saying, I have to do this. I have to do this.
Well, who was it? Benjamin Franklin said, defer not till the morning what the evening may accomplish.
Yes.
And I applied that in my life early on because I had that mindset too. We all do.
Yes.
Everybody likes to put things off.
Right.
But it's such a relief and a feel good once you start doing that. I mean, it emboldens yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, I'm powerful now. I can overcome my own desires to put things off. And we all have that stuff.
Yeah.
And it just empowers you. Once you do the little wins, get a lot of little wins in there.
Yeah.
It makes you stronger for the next deal, and then you become more confident. You have more self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
And you learn how to eliminate those fears and jump in the pool. I can go on with story after
But
story.
you
Well,
can't
Victoria,
teach that. You have to have that within yourself.
like our weekends that you and me just talked about. How on Saturday it's what do I need to get done?
Right.
So that when I sit down, I'm not thinking about it or I'm not pushing it off until tomorrow. That is that to a T.
I look at some of my stuff, like the reason I empty out my sink and do the dishes, I don't want ants. Right.
Fear of ants.
Let me ask you this. So let me ask you this, Frank. And
Have you ever seen a bug
This is
fly?
just getting into your psyche. But like you have gone this route every single time we've talked about fear. That fear is the solo way to live your life.
No,
Like
it's the primary
the
motivator
primary motivating factor.
of action.
That's okay, as long as it is a motivating factor instead of using as an excuse.
But no, what I'm just going against
Not
Frank
about-
is
it's a
he's saying it is
motivating
the
for action.
only motivating factor. It is the only, like he finds a way to say, I cannot do this out of fear of this. Like when he's talking to Brad, it's like, you want to do this because you fear of this. And you're saying that is the motivating factor. Fear is
That is
our
the primary motivating factor in action.
in action. And there's no other
Well, the primary, he didn't say the sole motivation.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Humans developed fear before they developed any other emotion. Most animals developed fear before they developed anything else.
Right.
So it's the first one. And the other feelings that you have are a result of loss, all these other things, loss, pain, everything else, right? These other interactions that your brain tells you to do, and the way in the reward system that it is, the reward system that you get for doing things that avoid personal destruction or societal destruction, right? So yes, there is such a thing as love. Yes, there's adoration. Yes, there's anxiety. Yes, there's all these other emotions. I'm not denying that those exist, and I'm not denying that those have a point in it. What I'm saying is that, ultimately speaking, those things and those other emotions branch off of a consequence or a negative outcome reward system. In other words, it goes, hey, I want to pass on my genes, and therefore I have kids. Well, I better make sure they survive. And I also want to set them up to be successful so they also have a better chance of doing those basic things. And it's not going to be a motivating factor for everyone because some people just don't care about that. Right? I mean, not everyone's afraid of bats and spiders. The people that are really worry about bats and spiders. And then they do shit to avoid bats and spiders, or they don't do stuff because they want to avoid bats and spiders. But we all have that component. It's the primary one, but it's also the universal one. Yeah. In other words, it's not everyone's decisions are driven solely by it, but everyone makes decisions because of it, right? Not all of your decisions are going to be driven by that, but you do make decisions driven by that. And you share that with everyone else. So it becomes a very easy way to communicate, even across people that you don't have anything in common with and you don't like. The guy sitting across the negotiation table on you on a peace deal might be a different religion, different color, different thing, might abjectly oppose everything that about your society hates you, want to kill you. But ultimately speaking, well, we still have family. We still have things that we want to do. We still don't want to be poor. We still want the best things out there. We don't want a negative income. We don't want to be ensnared and trapped and all these other things. So if you understand that, you can actually come to better outcomes and have them realize that what this is going to be better for you. So, and you do that by going, if you want to avoid this, then it's this. Because that's going to be far more motivating than if you want to accomplish this, then it's this.
In terms of the nature of the sale.
Right. In terms of the nature of the sale. But you got to keep in mind, we don't sell clients, we sell ourselves.
Right.
And we sell the people around us. So if we're talking about this stuff and people are absolutely afraid of success or they're afraid of rejection, we also need to understand them as a human being, as a salesperson, as an agent, and figure out something about their life and go, hey, what are you also afraid of? Oh, I'm really working hard because I got to make sure I got 3 kids and I got to make sure they have a better life. Well, if you want to do that, because you don't want to have, you don't want to have them go to school without school supplies or all this other stuff, then you need to get on the phone.
I think fear is a limiting belief system, not to interrupt you, but it goes back to like when you're making sales, all of a sudden you're on this sale train where you can't shut it off.
Right.
Because you don't need anything, you're not afraid of losing, Now on the opposite side of the coin, you're having a bad week, you really need that sale. You can't close the screen door.
True.
Why? Because you're afraid, And in fact, it says in the Bible 365 times, once for every day, do not be afraid. Peter goes out to walk on the water, he sinks. Why? Because he got afraid. These are philosophical things, but it is a limiting belief system, and if you base yourself on, if I don't do this, I'm going to get that, just do it. Just do it.
As his child works for Nike.
Right.
Just do it.
But I mean, that's a very valid point. That's a very valid point. But that's only if you, and this is my thing, is that what we're talking about is not, one of the things is that, yes, fear is a limiting system. It's an overpowering thing, and it will prevent you from doing the things that you need to do. Unless you start to realize, what do you really want to have? Right? What do you really want to have? because you're not going to get that and you're going to lose it if you don't get over this other thing.
Right. I mean, do you believe you can reach your goal? We set goals. Do you really believe that you're going to reach that goal?
Based on the primary or universal.
Or you just put something down and say, okay, well, that's my goal. I mean,
You ever hear the term someone that's driven?
Yes.
Right. That's a good
dog
thing.
in 'em.
yeah,
Right.
that's
right.
a positive.
They're driven, right? They're driven by what? They do not want to not accomplish that goal. Right? They hate losing, and they're not going to they don't want to suffer a loss, because when you give up on a goal, when you give up on a dream, that shit hurts. When you give up on a dream, right? You can't say, yeah, it hurts when that knee blows out in the fourth quarter. But you know what? That dude don't stop crying after that knee's fixed. He always looks back at it. They don't like giving that shit up. It's really, really powerful.
You lost when you gave up. That's when you lost.
Well, or you just can't run anymore. But that also is like, that's a sense of loss. And the sense of loss is incredibly powerful, right? And I say that if you don't want to lose your dreams, and you don't want to lose that attainment, those things that you're reaching for, because you will absolutely lose them if you don't get over these other fears, right? And it's just I'm agreeing with you, fear is a limiting factor. However, my thought process and my communication, which might not be right, it's definitely not going to be for everybody, is that I have to go through and motivate myself by going, I don't want to lose this thing that's important to me. And to do that, I got to get over my other stuff. I got to get over my other fears, because those fears are not nearly as important to me as the fear of losing this.
But did somebody teach you that, or did you have that within you on your own?
I had to learn it.
Hard
But
knocks.
you did.
That's right.
But it's
I
just not
agree.
something you can train.
No.
You have to have that from within, or you have to teach yourself that.
I'll tell you what, I changed. I had to learn it too. Because we've been going back and forth with fear, but I use that as a very strong motivator. When I taught, I didn't have to fear anything, because I was teaching, I had kids. And then when I wanted to go into the private sector, I was like, okay, I want to work on commissions. I want to make more money. But that fear of being broke, wow, that is a very motivating factor.
And it's also fear for not providing for your sons. It's fear for not being able to take care of yourself.
Right, but those are the other, like that was my, yes, that triggers family and support and stuff, but I needed to have money to support myself and my family, and that motivated me to be where I'm at today.
Yeah, and for other people, it motivates them to stay where they are.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm saying, I don't disagree that you have to eliminate fear. Because once I overcome fear, I've eliminated it, right? But how do I overcome that fear? And for me, it's always been find something else that I'm more afraid of losing or more afraid of compromising on.
Well, turn it around. Instead of being afraid, make your desire winning. That's your motivating factor.
That's so hard for me.
I hate to lose.
That's the worst thing
I
for
love
me.
to win. And we all have that within us. We have the power to achieve whatever we want if we can only get out of our own headspace. And, it's all what goes on between the two ears.
Yeah.
That's hard for me, because
It's hard for everybody.
for me, no. I hate to lose above all else. Winning is good for me. It's good to high. I hate to lose so much. I don't care if I win. Let's go ahead and go burn the crops. I hate to lose that much. And yes, winning's wonderful, but for me, I'll accept a tie as long as I don't lose. And I know other people just are like, oh, ties are for, and for me, I'm like, well, it's not as bad as a loss, because I just cannot stand losing. That's my biggest thing.
That's a good thing to, I think, end on too there. I want to leave one little thing, because you brought it up here, and we always talk about it too. When you talk about selling yourself, that's really what they're buying.
Right.
My goal is, when I call these people, and you guys will notice it too with some people that I work with, when I introduce myself, I don't have to say our company name.
No.
I don't have to say what I do. I don't have to do anything. So I call, they answer, oh, hey, man. I go, hey, bud, how's it going?
That's right.
That is how you should operate every single relationship, because they know me and they respect me as Jacob Crotty. They don't care about Jacob Crotty, Medicare gurus, Jacob Crotty, insurance sales. That's not what they care about. That's not who they bought.
Right.
They bought Jacob Crotty. And so if you can instill that, and this is for everyone out there too, if you can instill that with every time you talk to a client, by the time you get off the phone, when you have to call them in 6 months, in a year, next week, whatever it is, when you call, they better know it's you, and they better go, oh, hey, Brad. You don't have to go, yeah, hey, it's Brad Jenkins here, your agent for your Signal Plan F that you had since 2016. How's it going? Do it. That's my challenge to everyone out there. Thank you guys for our little trip around the sun here, talking about feels and philosophies, astrology. I'm sure you guys talked about science
Deep
when I
dives.
was out
Yeah,
here too.
love it.
It's like the Joe Rogan of Medicare.
It's a good day. I like it.
But thanks everybody for tuning in. Y'all have a great rest of the day and go sell something.
Awesome.